The silver chains bit into my wrists as Alpha Bastien dragged me down the stone steps, each one slick with centuries of despair. The dungeon air wrapped around my throat like frozen hands, stealing my breath, my hope, my future. 3 days. That's all it took for my mate, my fated mate, to decide I was better off buried in darkness than standing beside him as his Luna. "Please," I whispered, hating the crack in my voice. "Bastien, the bond." "The bond is a curse," he snarled, throwing me into the cell so hard my shoulder cracked against the wall. The iron door slammed shut, and his emerald eyes, once my salvation, now my damnation, glared through the bars. "You will rot here, Seraphine, until the moon goddess herself begs me for mercy." The lock clicked. His footsteps faded. And I was alone with the rats and the cold and the slowly dying embers of our mate bond burning in my chest like swallowed glass. Before I tell you how the most powerful alpha in France ended up on his knees begging for my forgiveness, I need you to do something for me. Tap that subscribe button right now. Yes, right now, because what happens next will completely shatter everything you think you know about mate bonds, rejection, and divine retribution. And drop a comment telling me the city you're watching from so I can send you a hug. You're going to need it for this story. Trust me. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare truly began. 3 months before those dungeon chains, before the rejection, before the moon goddess intervened in ways that would bring the entire Shadowcrest pack to its knees. My name is Seraphine Marceau, and I was nobody. An omega in the Shadowcrest pack, which in pack hierarchy means I rank somewhere between furniture and livestock. My parents died when I was 6. A rogue attack that the Alpha at the time, Bastien's father, couldn't prevent. Or wouldn't prevent. The rumors always whispered the latter, that Alpha Edouard had debts with the Rogue King, debts paid in blood and broken treaties. I grew up in the Pack Orphanage, a crumbling stone building on the edge of Pack territory where the unwanted and forgotten children were stored like damaged goods. We were fed enough to survive, educated enough to serve, and beaten enough to never forget our place. My wolf, Aurora, emerged late. I was 17 when she finally spoke to me, her voice as soft as moonlight on water. "Patience, little one," she would whisper during the worst beatings from the pack warriors who used us orphans as training dummies. "Our time comes with the full moon." I didn't know what she meant. Not then. Bastien Devereux became Alpha on his 23rd birthday 3 years ago. The ceremony was spectacular. I watched from the servant's entrance as he stood before the pack, his dark hair falling across his forehead, his emerald eyes blazing with authority as the former Alpha. His father bent his neck in submission. Bastien was everything an Alpha should be. Powerful, commanding, beautiful in the way that predators are beautiful, all sharp edges and lethal grace. Every unmated female in the pack practically threw themselves at his feet, hoping to be chosen as Luna, hoping that their bloodline would be the one to carry the future of Shadowcrest. He rejected them all with barely a glance, declaring he would wait for his true mate, the one the moon goddess selected for him. Noble. Romantic. Lie. 3 months ago, on the eve of the Lunar Eclipse Festival, I was serving wine at the Alpha's banquet. It was my job as an Omega to be invisible, to pour drinks and clear plates, and exist as nothing more than background scenery to the important wolves celebrating another year of pack prosperity. I had perfected the art of invisibility over 20 years. But that night, as I reached across the table to refill Alpha Bastien's crystal goblet, our fingers touched. The mate bond snapped into place like a physical chain, yanking my wolf to the surface with such force I gasped. Electric fire raced through my veins, every nerve ending suddenly aware of him. His scent of pine and smoke, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the sharp inhale as he felt it too. Our eyes locked, and for one crystalline moment, I saw shock, wonder, recognition in those emerald depths. "Mine!" Aurora howled in my mind, triumphant and fierce. "Mate!" His wolf growled back through the bond, the word a promise and a prayer. The wine bottle slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering against the marble floor in an explosion of red that looked too much like blood. The entire banquet hall fell silent, 200 pairs of eyes turning toward us, watching as their Alpha stared at the lowly Omega server with an expression that cycled through wonder, horror, and finally, cold fury. "Out!" he commanded, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Everyone out. Now. The pack scattered like leaves in a storm, the hall emptying in seconds until only Bastien and I remained, facing each other across a table laden with uneaten food and unspoken words, connected by an invisible thread that pulsed with desperate need. "This is impossible," he said finally, each word careful, controlled. "You cannot be my mate." "I didn't choose this," I whispered, my wolf whining in my chest at his tone, at the rejection already forming in his mouth. "The moon goddess. The moon goddess made a mistake." He stood towering over me, and I saw it then, not anger but fear. Alpha Bastien Devereux, the most powerful wolf in the region, was afraid. Of me. Of us. I am the Alpha of Shadowcrest. My Luna must be strong, must be worthy of standing beside me. Not some Omega servant who can barely shift without passing out. The words cut deeper than any blade. Deeper than the scars on my back from years of punishment. Deeper than the constant hunger, the endless cold, the certainty that I would never be enough. "Then reject me," I said, lifting my chin even as tears burned behind my eyes. "Say the words. Break the bond. Set us both free." He stared at me for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across his features. Then he shook his head slowly. "No. A rejection would weaken both of us, weaken the pack when we have enemies circling like vultures. But I will not claim you either. You will remain unmated, unbonded, and you will never speak of this to anyone. Do you understand? You're going to keep me here." The horror in my voice made him flinch. "Bound to you but never acknowledged. That's crueler than rejection. That's survival," he snapped. "The Pack Council would never accept an Omega Luna. They would see it as weakness, as insult. Other packs would challenge us, would test our borders. Everything I've built would crumble. I won't let that happen. Not for you. Not for anyone." He left me there in that banquet hall, surrounded by shattered glass and shattered dreams, the mate bond stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight, humming with pain and potential and poison. I should have run that night. Should have fled into the forest and never looked back. But where would I go? A lone Omega without pack protection would be dead within a week, torn apart by rogues or claimed by some other alpha as a toy, as entertainment. At least here, I knew the shape of my suffering. So I stayed. And I tried to pretend that everything was normal, that I didn't feel him every moment of every day, a constant presence in the back of my mind. I tried to pretend it didn't destroy me every time I saw him with Marguerite Beaumont, the pack's most eligible female, a beta's daughter with perfect bloodlines and warrior training. She was everything I wasn't. Confident, beautiful, powerful. The pack whispered about their inevitable mating, about what strong pups they would produce. I tried to pretend I couldn't feel his wolf howling in rage every time he touched her, tried to pretend the bond wasn't slowly killing us both with its unfulfilled promise. Then came the night that changed everything. The Black Moon pack attacked without warning, 50 rogues pouring across our northern border like a plague. I was in the orphanage when the alarm sounded, the deep toll of the warning bells that meant get to safety, meant hide, meant pray. The children screamed, clinging to me as I herded them into the cellar, into the reinforced safe room that had protected generations of vulnerable pack members during attacks. "Stay here," I commanded, my Omega authority nothing compared to an Alpha's but enough to make the children obey. "Stay silent. Don't come out until someone from the pack gives the all clear." "Where are you going?" little Emily asked, her gray eyes wide with terror. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because Aurora was screaming in my mind, clawing to get out, desperate to reach our mate who was fighting somewhere in the darkness, surrounded by enemies who wanted him dead. The bond pulled me toward the battle like a fish on a hook, irresistible and inevitable. I shifted mid-run, my small white wolf emerging in a blur of pain and light. I was weak compared to the warriors, barely larger than a large dog, but Aurora was fast and she was furious and she was done hiding. The battlefield was chaos incarnated. Wolves tore at each other in the darkness, blood painting the grass black under the moon. I saw Bastien immediately. Of course I did, the bond was a compass that always pointed toward him, fighting 3 massive rogues at once, his midnight black wolf a blur of fangs and fury. He was magnificent. He was losing. One of the rogues had torn open his shoulder, blood streaming down his foreleg. Another circled behind him, going for his exposed throat. The third lunged for his belly, aiming for the kill. I didn't think. Thinking was for wolves who had something to lose, who had futures and hope and reasons to be cautious. I had none of those things. I had only him, only this bond that he refused, only this love that had nowhere to go except into action. I hit the rogue going for his throat with everything I had, my small body slamming into his massive one with enough force to knock him off course. My teeth found his ear and I ripped, tasting blood and victory and my own imminent death because there was no way I survived this, no way my tiny Omega wolf could stand against a rogue warrior 3 times my size. But I had surprised him. And surprise bought Bastien 3 seconds. 3 seconds was all the alpha of Shadowcrest needed. He tore the throat out of the rogue in front of him, whirled and broke the spine of the one circling behind, then launched himself at the one I was grappling with, his jaws closing around the rogue's skull with a sickening crunch. The rogue went limp. I collapsed beneath his weight, my white fur now red, my ribs screaming from where his claws had found purchase, had dug deep, had probably punctured something vital because breathing was suddenly very difficult and the world was getting fuzzy at the edges. Bastien shifted back to human form, his naked body covered in blood and battle wounds as he shoved the dead rogue off me. His hands found my wolf, gentle despite their violence, checking injuries with a warrior's practiced efficiency. "You stupid, reckless, insane," his voice cracked. "Why would you do that? Why would you risk yourself for me?" "Because you're my mate," I wanted to say. "Because the bond wouldn't let me stand by and watch you die. Because even though you won't claim me, even though you're ashamed of me, even though you would rather keep me as a secret than acknowledge what the moon goddess created, I would still die for you 1,000 times over." But I was a wolf and wolves can't speak, so I just looked at him with Aurora's golden eyes and let him see the truth there. Let him see everything. His expression shattered. For just a moment, the alpha mask fell away and I saw the man beneath, conflicted, anguished, trapped between duty and desire. Then his beta, Christophe Moreau, ran up, panting and covered in rogue blood. "Alpha, we've driven them back, but we need you at the border too." He stopped, seeing Bastien cradling my wolf form. Is that the Omega from the kitchens?" Bastien's face went blank, cold, the mask slamming back into place. He stood abruptly, dropping me like I burned him. "She got in the way of the fight," he said, his voice empty. "Get her to the pack healer, then meet me at the north border." He walked away without looking back, leaving me bleeding in the grass with his beta staring down at me with something like pity in his dark eyes. "You saved his life," Christophe said quietly, carefully lifting my wolf form. "I saw it. That rogue would have killed him if you hadn't intervened." I closed my eyes, exhausted and broken and so tired of wanting things I couldn't have. The pack healer, an ancient wolf named Genevieve, patched me up with expert hands and knowing eyes. She said nothing about why an Omega had been on the battlefield, nothing about the way I whimpered when the mate bond stretched too far as Bastien stayed at the border instead of coming to check on me. She just gave me herbs for the pain and told me to rest. I thought that would be the end of it. That Bastien would continue pretending I didn't exist, that our almost tragedy would become just another secret we carried separately. I was wrong. 2 nights after the attack, Bastien summoned me to his private chambers in the Alpha House. Not through an official messenger, but through the bond itself, a sharp tug of command that I couldn't ignore even if I wanted to. I climbed the stairs with my heart in my throat, my ribs still aching from the healing injuries, wondering if this was finally it. The rejection, the end, the freedom that would kill us both. He was standing at the window when I entered, his back to me, shoulders rigid with tension. "You should have let me die," he said without preamble. "It would have been simpler, cleaner. Would it?" I asked quietly. "Would you have preferred death to admitting that the moon goddess gave you an Omega mate?" He turned then, and the raw pain in his eyes stole my breath. You don't understand what you're asking. The Pack Council. My father spent 30 years building alliances, creating stability. When he died and I took over, half the council wanted to challenge me, wanted to tear everything apart and rebuild it in their image. I've spent 3 years proving I'm worthy, proving I'm strong enough, proving that Shadowcrest will not fall under my leadership. And now you appear, my fated mate, and you're... He stopped, jaw clenched. An Omega, I finished. Weak. Worthless. An embarrassment. No. The word exploded from him. That's not. You saved my life, Seraphine. You, with your tiny wolf and your impossible courage, did what trained warriors couldn't. You're not weak. You're not worthless. But the Pack will see you that way. They'll see me choosing you as a sign of weakness, of sentiment over strength. They'll challenge me. They'll test me. And in the chaos, wolves will die. Good wolves. Innocent wolves. All because I refused to put duty before desire. So we just suffer. The words tasted like ash. We both live half-lives, feeling each other every moment but never touching, never completing the bond. That's your solution. I don't have a solution. He ran his hands through his dark hair, frustration and anguish radiating through the bond. I've been trying to figure this out since the moment we touched. I've consulted with elders, with the Pack historian, with everyone who might have an answer. There's no precedent for this. No Alpha in Shadowcrest history has ever been mated to an Omega. Then maybe we're meant to change history, I said softly. Maybe the moon goddess knew exactly what she was doing. He laughed, bitter and broken. The moon goddess is either testing me or punishing me. Either way, I'm losing. He crossed the room in 3 strides, closing the distance between us until I could feel his body heat, until his scent wrapped around me like an embrace. His hand came up, hovering near my face but not quite touching, trembling with restraint. I can't claim you, he whispered. But I can't let you go either. I'm a selfish bastard, Seraphine. I'm going to keep you close and push you away, and it's going to destroy us both. You should run. You should reject me and find happiness somewhere far from here. I can't reject you either, I admitted. I've tried. Aurora won't let me. And even if she would, I don't want to. This bond, this torture, this impossible situation, I still choose it. I still choose you. Then you're as insane as I am. His hand finally made contact, cupping my face with such tenderness that tears spilled down my cheeks. The mate bond sang at the touch, every cell in my body lighting up with rightness, with home, with finally. For one perfect moment I thought he would kiss me. Thought he would say damn the consequences and claim me properly. Mark me as his Luna regardless of what the Pack thought. But Alpha Bastien Devereux was a man of duty before desire. Always. He dropped his hand and stepped back, the loss of contact physically painful. Marguerite has agreed to a courtship, he said, each word deliberate, cruel. The Pack Council is pleased. The mating ceremony is being planned for the next full moon. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. You're going to mate someone else. While we're bonded. We're not bonded. We're connected. It's not the same thing. It is to me. Then that's your problem to solve, not mine. I should have left then. Should have preserved some dignity, some pride. But instead, I asked the question that had been burning in my chest since that first night. Do you feel anything for me at all? Or is it just the bond making you feel obligated? His green eyes met mine, and for a heartbeat, I saw everything. The longing, the love, the absolute agony of denying what we both wanted most. It doesn't matter what I feel, he said finally. It only matters what I do. And I do what's best for the Pack. Always. That was the night I truly understood that the mate bond wasn't a gift. It was a curse. And I was trapped in it for as long as we both lived. The days that followed were a special kind of torture. I watched Bastien court Marguerite, watched him smile at her with a smile that never reached his eyes, watched him touch her casually, publicly, the way mates are supposed to touch, while our bond screamed in protest with every false caress. I felt his revulsion through the connection, felt his wolf raging against the wrongness, but he never stopped, never wavered. The pack celebrated the courtship. Finally, their alpha was settling down, choosing a proper Luna, securing the future. Marguerite preened under the attention. Her perfect blonde hair and warrior physique, everything a Luna should be. She moved into the alpha house, took over planning for the mating ceremony, started acting like the pack's first lady even though the bond remained incomplete. And I returned to my servant duties, invisible once more, dying slowly from the inside out. Aurora grew weaker every day. The mate bond, unfulfilled and rejected, was poisoning her. She stopped speaking to me except in whimpers, stopped pushing me to fight, to challenge, to claim what was ours. She was giving up. We both were. Then came the day I collapsed. I was carrying firewood to the kitchen when my legs simply stopped working. One moment I was walking, the next I was on the ground, my vision swimming with black spots, my chest too tight to breathe. Genevieve found me there and dragged me to her healing cottage with strength that belied her ancient appearance. "You're dying," she said bluntly, after examining me with hands that glowed faintly with diagnostic magic. "The incomplete mate bond is killing you. Your wolf is dying. And when she dies, you die." "How long?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady for someone receiving a death sentence. 2 months. Maybe 3 if you're lucky. And if I complete the bond? Her wrinkled face creased with pity. "The alpha has made his choice, child. He's mating Marguerite in 2 weeks. Once that bond is formed, yours will snap entirely. You'll probably die within hours. So I'm dead either way. Unless you reject him first. Break the bond yourself before it breaks you. It will be painful, possibly fatal, but you'd have a chance. A small one, but better than none." I considered it. Truly considered it. But rejecting Bastien meant severing not just our bond but any hope that things might change, that somehow the impossible might become possible. And I wasn't ready to give up on hope. Not yet. "No," I said finally. "If I'm going to die, I'm going to die fighting." Genevieve shook her head sadly. "Fighting what, child? You can't force an alpha to choose you. You can't change the pack's mind about omegas. What exactly are you going to fight?" I didn't have an answer then. Do now. 3 days before Bastien's mating ceremony to Marguerite, something unprecedented happened. The moon goddess appeared. Not to the alpha. Not to the pack elders or the council or any of the powerful wolves who might expect divine intervention. Me. I was alone in the forest, too weak to shift anymore. Just walking among the trees and saying goodbye to the world I would soon leave. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire, when the air suddenly changed, grew heavy with power, with ancient magic that made every hair on my body stand on end. She materialized from moonlight and shadow, a woman and a wolf and something far greater than either. Her form shifting between shapes too quickly to track. When she spoke, her voice was every howl I'd ever heard, every prayer whispered under the full moon, every oath sworn in her name. "Seraphine Marceau," the moon goddess said, and my true name on her lips made me fall to my knees. "Do you know why I bound you to Bastien Devereux?" I couldn't speak, could barely breathe under the weight of her presence. "Answer me, little Omega. Why do you think I gave you an alpha mate?" I don't know," I managed. "To punish me. To test me. To teach me that I will never be enough." Her laughter was silver bells and breaking glass. "No, child. I gave you to each other because you are perfect equals. Because his strength without your compassion would turn to tyranny, and your gentleness without his protection would be crushed by the world. Because together you could reshape what it means to lead, to love, to live as wolves. I gave you to each other because you are exactly what the other needs." "Then why?" Tears streamed down my face. "Why is he rejecting me? Why is he choosing duty over the bond you created?" "Because he is afraid. Because he was taught that weakness must be eliminated, that compassion is liability, that an alpha must be hard and cold and utterly alone at the top. His father's legacy poisons him still." She moved closer, and I felt her power like sunshine and tsunami combined. But you, Seraphine, you are stronger than you know. Strong enough to show him a different way. Strong enough to challenge centuries of tradition. Strong enough to become a Luna the likes of which this world has never seen. I'm dying, I whispered. The bond is killing me. Have days, maybe weeks. I'm not strong enough for anything except ending. You're dying because you're waiting for him to save you. Waiting for him to choose you. Waiting for permission to be who you were always meant to be. Her hand, solid and moonlit and impossible, touched my face. Stop waiting, Seraphine Marceau. Take what is yours. Claim your power. Show the Alpha of Shadowcrest what it means to kneel before true strength. How? I'm an Omega. Have no power. No authority. No. You have me, she interrupted. And that is more than enough. The world exploded with light. Power poured into me like liquid starlight, like distilled moonbeams, like the concentrated essence of every prayer ever offered to the moon goddess since the beginning of time. It burned through my veins, reforming, reshaping, rebuilding everything I was into something new, something more, something terrifying and glorious. My wolf reformed, no longer weak and small but massive, radiant, a white wolf touched by divinity itself. I could feel the power thrumming through me, not the borrowed authority of an alpha, but something older, something primal, something that made alpha authority look like a candle flame next to the sun. You are my champion now, the moon goddess said, her voice fading as the light dimmed. You are Luna incarnate, Omega no more. Go to your mate, Seraphine, and show him what it means to reject the divine. She vanished, leaving me alone in the forest with power singing in my bones and a purpose burning in my heart. I was done waiting, done hiding, done accepting that I wasn't enough. Bastien wanted to mate Marguerite in 3 days. Fine. He could try. But first, he was going to face what he'd rejected. And the moon goddess help him when he did. I walked back to pack territory with my head high for the first time in my life. Wolves scattered out of my path, sensing something different, something dangerous, something that made their wolves whine and lower their heads in submission. I didn't hide anymore. Didn't make myself small or invisible or acceptable. I walked straight to the Alpha House. The guards at the entrance moved to block me. 2 massive warriors who had never given me a second glance before. Now they looked uncertain. Their wolves conflicted between following their training to stop intruders and bowing to the divine authority rolling off me in waves. Let me pass, I said quietly. Or I will move you myself. They exchanged glances. Then slowly they stepped aside. I found Bastien in his office with Marguerite draped across his desk, the 2 of them reviewing seating arrangements for the mating ceremony. The bond between us, weakened and dying for months, suddenly blazed back to life with such intensity that Bastien gasped, his head whipping toward the door as I entered. Seraphine. He stood abruptly, shock written across his face. What are you? What happened to you? 'Cause he could see it now. Could see the power, the change, the divine mark that turned me from Omega into something the pack had no name for. Out, I told Marguerite, not even looking at her. Excuse me. She stood, indignant, her beta authority flaring. You can't just. Out. The word carried divine command. Luna authority that made Marguerite yelp and scramble for the door, unable to resist. She fled like a rabbit from a wolf, leaving just Bastien and me facing each other across his desk. What have you done? He whispered, and I heard fear in his voice. He should be afraid. What you couldn't, I replied. I accepted who I was meant to be. The moon goddess herself came to me, Bastien. She marked me. She gave me power to match yours, to exceed yours, because apparently you needed a Luna who could stand as your equal. But you were too blind, too afraid, too trapped in your father's legacy to see that I already was your equal. I always was. That's not possible. Omegas can't. The moon goddess doesn't. She does when alphas forget that her word matters more than pack politics. I walked around the desk, watching him retreat, watching the mighty alpha of Shadowcrest back away from his rejected mate like I was the threat. You're mating Marguerite in 3 days. Did you honestly think I would just accept that? That I would lie down and die quietly while you betrayed everything we are to each other? I'm protecting you, he snarled, his alpha command slamming into me. It should have dropped me to my knees. Forced submission made me bare my throat. Instead I laughed. Your alpha command doesn't work on me anymore. Nothing in this pack's hierarchy works on me. I'm beyond your authority now, Bastien. I'm Luna. True Luna. And you're going to make a choice tonight. What choice? His voice cracked. You're going to complete our mate bond and accept me as your Luna, or you're going to reject me properly and accept the consequences. No more half measures. No more keeping me in limbo while you play politics. Choose. Now. He stared at me, war playing out across his features. Duty versus desire, fear versus love, the pack's expectations versus the moon goddess's will. If I choose you, he said slowly, the pack council will revolt. They'll challenge me. We could face civil war. Then we face it together. If I reject you, you'll die. The bond snap will kill you. Maybe. Or maybe the moon goddess's blessing will protect me. Either way, I refuse to keep living like this. Choose, Bastien. Choose right now. The silence stretched between us, heavy with 3 months of pain and denial and desperate longing. Then Bastien moved, crossing the distance between us in one stride. His hands framing my face with desperate urgency. I choose you, he breathed against my lips. Goddess help us both, I choose you. I always wanted to choose you. From the first moment. Every moment after. Sorry. I'm so sorry for what I put you through. I was afraid and I was wrong and I nearly destroyed us both with my cowardice. Then mark me, I demanded. Complete the bond. Make me your Luna before the entire pack and let them challenge us if they dare. He kissed me then, finally, and the mate bond blazed like a supernova between us, 3 months of denial and suffering burning away in the face of our connection. His mark went into my neck with sweet sharp pain, my mark answered on his, and the world reformed around us as the bond clicked into place with divine finality. Luna. I was Luna of Shadowcrest Pack. And anyone who challenged that would face not just their alpha, but the moon goddess herself. But that's not the end of this story. That's not where the dungeon comes in. Because Marguerite didn't take rejection well. And neither did the pack council who had been planning on her bloodline joining the alphas. And neither did Bastien's father's old allies who saw our mating as weakness, as insult, as opportunity. 3 days after our mating, 3 days after I became Luna, the betrayal came from within. Marguerite poisoned my wine at dinner, wolfsbane mixed with silver dust, a combination that should have killed me instantly. But divine blessing protected me, turned the poison back on itself, made me sick but not dead. Bastien, enraged, threw Marguerite in the cells to await judgment. Then Christophe, Bastien's trusted beta, his best friend since childhood, revealed himself as the architect of a much larger plot. He'd been working with a faction of the council who wanted Bastien dead, wanted to install a new alpha, wanted to return to the old ways where Omegas knew their place and the strong ruled without question or mercy. The coup attempt was brutal and swift. 20 traitor wolves attacked during the night, catching us unprepared, overwhelming the loyal guards. They captured Bastien, beat him unconscious, and dragged him to the cells beneath the Alpha House, the same cells where criminals and rogues were kept, ancient stone chambers that had witnessed centuries of pack justice. They locked him in the deepest dungeon, the forgotten one, the one where wolves went to die slowly in the dark. And they made me watch. Your precious mate is finished, Christophe snarled. His handsome face twisted with hatred I'd never seen before. The council will vote him guilty of bringing shame to the pack by mating an Omega. He'll be executed at dawn. And you'll be locked in there with him. You can die together in the darkness, just like your bond deserves. They threw me into the cell with Bastien's unconscious body. The door slammed shut with terrible finality. Christophe's face appeared in the bars one last time. The moon goddess made a mistake with you, he said coldly. We're correcting it. His footsteps faded. The lock clicked. And I was in the dungeon with my dying mate, exactly where Bastien had threatened to put me 3 months ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Bastien woke an hour later, groaning with pain from the beating. I'd managed to drag him into my lap, his head cradled against my chest, my fingers stroking through his blood-matted hair. "Seraphine." His voice was rough, broken. Where? "Shoo. Save your strength. We're in the dungeon. Christophe betrayed you. There's going to be a trial at dawn. A trial I won't survive." He laughed bitterly, then coughed. Blood flecked his lips. "Internal injuries. Bad ones. They're going to kill me for choosing you." I was right. I should have mated Marguerite. Should have protected the pack. "Don't," I said fiercely. "Don't you dare. We did this together. We chose love over politics, truth over tradition. If we die for that, at least we die as true mates. You should have let me rot alone. Should have saved yourself. We're past that now." He looked up at me then, really looked at me, and I saw his expression change as he remembered. The power, the divine mark, the Luna authority that the moon goddess herself had granted me. "You're not really trapped here, are you?" he asked slowly. "You could break down that door. Could tear through those bars like paper. The moon goddess's blessing makes you stronger than any dungeon." He was right. I could feel the power humming just beneath my skin, ready to explode outward if I called it. I could escape easily. Could probably fight my way through every traitor in the packhouse and rip them apart with my divine-touched claws. "I could," I agreed softly. "But where would that leave us? We'd be fugitives running from your own pack. The traitors would claim you abandoned Shadowcrest, that you chose your Omega mate over your duty. They'd install Christophe as Alpha, and everything you've built would be destroyed anyway. So what do? Wait for dawn and let them execute us?" "No." I smiled, feeling Aurora stir in my chest, stronger than she'd been in months, practically vibrating with anticipation. "We let them think they've won. We let them drag us to their trial. And then we show every wolf in Shadowcrest what it means to condemn those marked by the moon goddess herself." Understanding dawned in his emerald eyes. "You're going to call on her." "I already am her champion. Her Luna. When they try to execute us, they'll be trying to execute divine will. And the moon goddess doesn't take kindly to that level of blasphemy." Bastien pulled himself upright despite his injuries, his hand finding mine in the darkness. "You could have used this power from the beginning. Could have forced the pack to accept you the moment she marked you. Why didn't you? Because that wouldn't have been a choice. That would have been subjugation, domination through divine power. The pack needed to choose. Loyalty or betrayal, love or tradition, growth or stagnation. Christophe and his traitors have made their choice. Now they'll face the consequences." We waited in that dungeon through the long night, holding each other, our mate bond fully formed and blazing bright despite the darkness around us. Bastien's injuries slowly healed as my divine-touched power flowed through our connection, mending broken ribs and internal bleeding. By the time dawn painted the sky outside, he was whole again, strong again, ready. They came for us with the sunrise, 20 armed warriors led by Christophe, who wore the Alpha's ceremonial cloak like he'd already claimed the position. They dragged us from the dungeon in silver chains that should have weakened us, should have made us helpless. The silver burned Bastien's skin, made him grit his teeth against the pain. Didn't touch me at all. The entire pack had been assembled in the central square, hundreds of wolves forced to witness their Alpha's execution. Some looked horrified, loyal pack members who couldn't believe what was happening. Others looked satisfied, traitors revealing themselves through smug expressions and hostile glares. And some just looked scared, trapped between opposing forces, unsure which side would win. The pack council sat on an elevated platform, 12 wolves who had served under Bastien's father, who had grudgingly accepted Bastien's rule but never truly supported him. Elder Lucien Archambault stood as their spokesman, his grey beard and wrinkled face giving him an air of wisdom that his words would soon prove false. "Bastien Devereux," he intoned, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. You stand accused of betraying your position as Alpha by mating an Omega, thereby bringing shame and weakness to the Shadowcrest pack. How do you plead? I plead that you're all fools, Bastien said calmly, no fear in his voice despite the silver chains and the armed wolves surrounding us. I mated my true mate, the wolf chosen for me by the moon goddess herself. If you see that as betrayal, then you betray her will, not mine. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kristoff stepped forward, playing his role perfectly. The moon goddess would never choose an Omega for an Alpha, he declared. This is clearly a mistake, an aberration that must be corrected. Seraphine Marceau has bewitched our Alpha, used dark magic to create a false bond. For the good of the pack, both must be executed. Dark magic. I laughed, the sound echoing across the square with an otherworldly resonance that made several wolves flinch. Is that what you're calling divine blessing now, Kristoff? The moon goddess came to me. Mark me. Gave me power to stand as Luna beside my Alpha mate. That's not dark magic. That's sacred truth. Lies. Elder Lucien spat. The moon goddess has not walked among us for generations. You claim divine favor to excuse your ambition, Omega. But we see through you. We see the manipulation, the scheme to rise above your station. And we will not tolerate it. Then don't tolerate it, I said softly. Reject me. Execute me. Try to kill the Luna that the moon goddess herself created. I'm curious what happens when you attempt to murder divine will. The silver chains shattered. I didn't break them with my hands or my strength. The moon goddess's power simply dissolved them like morning mist, like they were nothing more than suggestion and shadow. The chains fell from my wrists in pieces, silver shards scattering across the stone platform. The crowd gasped. The council members jerked back in fear. And Kristoff, brave, stupid Kristoff, lunged at me with a silver blade, going for my heart, trying to end this before it truly began. I caught his wrist without looking, my hand closing around his arm with casual, terrible strength. The blade stopped inches from my chest, trembling as he poured all his beta power into the strike and couldn't move it another millimeter. You really should have believed me about the blessing, I said conversationally. Then I squeezed. His wrist shattered with a crack that echoed across the square. The blade fell from his nerveless fingers. He screamed and dropped to his knees, cradling his ruined arm. That's for betraying your Alpha, I continued, my voice still calm, still soft, carrying across the silent crowd through power rather than volume. Your best friend. Your brother in all but blood. You would have killed him for what? Power. Pride. The chance to rule through murder and treachery. He was weak. Kristoff snarled through his pain. He chose you over the pack. Over strength. Over everything an Alpha should be. No, Bastien said, the silver chains falling from his wrists as well, dissolved by our completed mate bond and divine blessing. I chose truth over tradition. I chose love over fear. I chose to trust that the moon goddess knew what she was doing when she bound me to the strongest wolf I've ever known. He stepped forward, standing beside me, united. And you called that weakness. You called divine will a mistake. You tried to murder your Luna and your Alpha because you couldn't accept that the world is changing, that the old ways aren't the only ways. The pack will never accept her. Elder Lucien stood, pointing at me with a trembling hand. She's Omega. She's beneath us. She's enough. The word came from everywhere and nowhere, my voice and the moon goddess's voice, speaking in perfect unison. The sky darkened despite the morning sun. The temperature dropped until breath misted in the air. And every wolf in the square, including the council, including Kristoff, including every traitor who had supported this coup, fell to their knees. Not bowing. Not submitting by choice. Forced down by divine authority that made Alpha Command look like a whisper, that crushed resistance like an avalanche crushes snow. Only Bastien remained standing beside me, protected by our bond, by his acceptance of what we were together. I walked toward the council's platform, each step deliberate, letting them see what was coming. The power built around me like a visible aura, moonlight given form, making my white hair glow silver, making my eyes shine with reflected starlight. You want to know if the moon goddess walks among us? I asked softly, stopping before the 12 council members who couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything except kneel and tremble and finally, understand what they'd almost done. She does. Through me. I am her Luna, her champion, her voice in this pack. And you. I swept my gaze across all 12, letting them feel the weight of divine judgment. You would have executed me at dawn, would have killed your alpha, would have torn apart the sacred mate bond that she created. We didn't know, Elder Lucien gasped, tears streaming down his weathered face. We didn't believe, we thought. You thought an Omega couldn't possibly be worthy. That power and position mattered more than divine will. That tradition was more important than truth. I shook my head slowly. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. When she chooses mates, she sees what we cannot. The potential, the balance, the future that could be if we're brave enough to accept it. Bastien and I together will lead this pack to greatness beyond anything you can imagine. Or we'll lead it to ruin, if you continue to fight against what we are. I released the divine pressure, letting the council members breathe again, letting them collapse forward with gasps of relief and terror. Choose, I commanded. Accept your Luna and your Alpha as the moon goddess intended, or leave this pack forever. Choose now. I won't give you another chance. Elder Lucien was the first to speak. His voice cracked with age and fear and something that might have been awe. I choose Luna, he whispered. I choose Alpha. I choose to trust the moon goddess's wisdom over my own prejudice. Forgive me. One by one, the other council members echoed his words. Some meant it. I could tell through the bonds of pack hierarchy that were reforming around me as Luna. Some were just terrified, choosing survival over conviction. But it didn't matter. They had chosen. I turned to the crowd, to the hundreds of wolves watching this scene unfold. What about the rest of you? Do you accept me as your Luna? Do you accept that Omega, Beta, and Alpha are just words, just ranks, just limitations we place on ourselves? Do you accept that true strength comes in forms you might not expect, and that the moon goddess's wisdom exceeds your understanding? The silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then Genevieve stepped forward from the crowd, the ancient healer moving with surprising speed for someone her age. She knelt before me, not forced by divine power, but choosing to bend her knee freely. I accept Luna Seraphine, she said clearly. I've lived 140 years, seen 4 alphas rise and fall, witnessed countless matings and rejections and tragedies. And I tell you all now, I've never seen a bond as strong as theirs, never felt power as pure as hers. The moon goddess has blessed Shadowcrest with a Luna unlike any in history. We'd be fools to reject that gift. Her words broke the dam. Wolves began kneeling throughout the crowd, some slowly, reluctantly, still uncertain, but kneeling nonetheless. Others dropped immediately, relief written across their faces that they wouldn't have to choose between their Alpha and the Traitor Council. The loyal ones, the ones who had never supported Christoph's coup, knelt with joy in their eyes, finally seeing their Alpha vindicated. Within minutes, every wolf in the square had bent their knee except for Christoph and the 20 warriors who had helped him with the coup. They stood apart from the crowd, clustered together, weapons drawn, defiance written across their faces even as divine power still pressed down on them like a physical weight. We don't accept this, Christoph snarled, cradling his broken wrist but somehow still finding the strength to challenge me. We don't accept an Omega Luna, divine blessing or not. You're corrupting Alpha Bastien with your magic, making him weak, destroying everything Shadowcrest stands for. Then leave, Bastien said, his voice carrying the full weight of Alpha command now, amplified by our completed bond. Take your traitors and get out of my territory. You have until sunset to cross the border. After that, you're rogues and you'll be hunted as such. You'd exile your own Beta. Christoph looked genuinely shocked, like he'd expected forgiveness, expected their childhood friendship to mean more than betrayal and attempted murder. Your brother. You stopped being my brother the moment you put me in chains. Bastien's voice was ice and iron. You stopped being my beta when you conspired with the council to execute me. You chose your path, Christophe. Now walk it. For a moment I thought Christophe might attack anyway. Might throw himself at us in a suicidal last stand, taking his traitors with him in a final desperate attempt to change the outcome. His hand tightened on his blade, his wolf rising in his eyes. Then he looked at me, really looked at me, at the divine power still crackling around my form like visible lightning, at the Luna mark blazing on my neck where Bastien had claimed me, at the absolute certainty in my expression. He saw death waiting if he attacked, saw divine retribution, saw the end of everything he was. This isn't over, he spat, but he was backing away now, gesturing for his warriors to follow. Other packs will hear about this. They'll hear that Shadowcrest is led by an alpha so weak he bends to Omega magic. They'll come for you. They'll tear you apart. Let them try, I said softly. Let them all try. I look forward to teaching them the same lesson I taught you, that the moon goddess's choice exceeds their understanding, and divine will breaks all who oppose it. Christophe fled, his traitors following, 20 wolves slinking out of the pack square with their tails between their legs, heading for exile and the rogue life and whatever future waited beyond our borders. I didn't watch them go. Didn't waste another moment's thought on them. I turned instead to my mate, to my alpha, to Bastien who had finally, chosen me over duty, over tradition, over fear. You locked me in your dungeon, I said, loud enough for the pack to hear, referring to that first night 3 months ago when he'd threatened me with exactly this fate. Told me I'd rot there until the moon goddess herself begged you for mercy. Remember? He had the grace to look ashamed. I remember. The moon goddess didn't beg, I continued. She commanded. She blessed. She made you kneel, not in submission but in recognition of what we are together. Made you see that true strength isn't ruling alone at the top, isolated and cold and slowly dying from the weight of duty. True strength is partnership, balance, love. I took his hand, lacing our fingers together, and felt the mate bond pulse with pure joy between us. So here's my command as your Luna, as the moon goddess's champion, as your mate and your equal. Never lock me out again. Never push me away out of fear. Never choose duty over us, because our bond is your duty now. We lead together or we don't lead at all. Together, he agreed, pulling me close, his forehead resting against mine while the pack watched their alpha and Luna claim each other properly, publicly, exactly as it should have been from the beginning. Always together. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that. You're forgiven, I whispered. Then louder to the pack. You're all forgiven. The council, the ones who doubted, the ones who weren't sure. I don't hold your uncertainty against you. Change is terrifying. An Omega Luna breaks every rule you've ever known. But I promise you this. I will be the Luna you need, even if I'm not the Luna you expected. I will fight for this pack, protect this pack, love this pack with everything I am. And together with your alpha, we will make Shadowcrest stronger than it's ever been. The pack howled their approval, the sound rising to the sky in waves. Hundreds of voices united in acceptance and hope and the beginning of something new. But this story, the story of how I went from dungeon prisoner to divine Luna, has one more chapter. One more piece that needs to be told before you truly understand what happened between Bastien and me. The mating ceremony. Not the false one planned for Bastien and Marguerite. The real one. The one we held 3 days after the coup attempt, after Christophe's exile, after the pack had finally, truly accepted me as their Luna. It was beautiful and terrible and perfect. We held it under the full moon, of course, in the sacred clearing where Shadowcrest pack had conducted mating ceremonies for 200 years. The entire pack attended, no longer divided between traitors and loyalists, but united under new leadership that none of them quite understood yet, but all of them had chosen to follow. I wore Luna white, a traditional gown that had been worn by every Luna before me, adjusted by Genevieve's clever hands to fit my smaller frame. Bastien wore ceremonial black, the Alpha's formal attire that made him look like darkness incarnate, beautiful and dangerous and mine. Elder Lucien officiated. His voice stronger than it had been in the square, like accepting change had given him new life. "We gather under the moon goddess's eye," he intoned, "to witness the completion of a sacred bond. To recognize Luna Seraphine Marceau and Alpha Bastien Devereux as true mates, as the leaders of Shadowcrest Pack, as the embodiment of divine will." The ceremony followed ancient tradition. The exchange of vows, the public claiming of marks, the sharing of blood that bound Luna and Alpha not just to each other but to every wolf in the pack. I felt the connections forming as we spoke the ritual words, felt my consciousness expanding to touch every packmate, felt their joys and fears and hopes flowing through me like rivers joining the sea. This was what it meant to be Luna. Not just mate to the Alpha, but mother to the pack, protector and nurturer and fierce defender of every wolf under our care. When the ceremony ended, when we stood before our pack as officially mated and bonded and recognized, something extraordinary happened. The moon goddess appeared again. Not just to me this time. To everyone. She materialized in the center of the clearing, her form shifting between woman and wolf in pure moonlight. Her presence so overwhelming that every wolf dropped to their knees instantly, including Bastien and me, unable to stand under the weight of divinity made manifest. "Shadowcrest Pack," she said, and her voice was thunder and whisper combined. "You have passed my test. You have chosen growth over stagnation, love over tradition, truth over comfortable lies. Your Luna is my gift to you, not a punishment for your sins, but a promise of your potential. Treat her well, honor her, learn from her, and she will lead you to heights you cannot yet imagine." She turned to Bastien and me, still kneeling before her, and I felt her smile even though her face was too bright to see clearly. "You, my Alpha and Luna, will face many challenges. Other packs will test you. Rogues will attack your borders. There will be wolves who never accept what you represent, who fight against change until their dying breath. But together, always together, you are unstoppable. The bond one forged between you is stronger than steel, purer than starlight, eternal as the moon itself. Never forget that." She reached out, touching both our heads with hands that felt like sunshine and moonlight and every good thing that ever existed. "My blessing goes with you. My power flows through you. And my love surrounds you, now and always." Then she was gone, fading like morning mist, leaving only the lingering sense of her presence and a clearing full of wolves who had just witnessed something they would tell their grandchildren about in hushed, reverent tones. We rose slowly, Bastien and I, our hands still joined, our bond blazing so bright I swear every wolf in the clearing could see it shimmering between us like visible light. "Luna," the pack whispered, the words spreading like wildfire. "Luna, Luna, Luna." They weren't just accepting me anymore. They believed. They understood. They saw what the moon goddess saw, that I wasn't weak, wasn't lesser, wasn't a mistake or an aberration or something to be ashamed of. I was exactly what they needed. What Bastien needed. What Shadowcrest needed to evolve from good pack into something legendary. The celebration that followed lasted until dawn, wolves dancing and singing and celebrating not just a mating but a revolution, a complete transformation of everything they thought they knew about power and position and worth. And through it all, Bastien never left my side. Never let go of my hand. Never stopped looking at me like I was the answer to every question he'd ever asked, the solution to every problem he'd ever faced. "I love you," he whispered as we danced under the full moon, the pack swirling around us in joy and acceptance. I should have said it months ago. Should have said it the moment we touched. "I love you, Seraphine. My mate. My Luna. My everything." "I love you too," I replied, tears streaming down my face because this moment, this acceptance, this perfect rightness, was what I'd been dying for. Literally dying, the incomplete bond slowly killing me. All because I'd wanted this exact feeling. This exact belonging. I loved you even when you locked me in your dungeon. Even when you chose Marguerite. Even when you rejected me over and over. I loved you through all of it. And I'll love you through whatever comes next. "The other packs will challenge us," he said seriously, echoing the moon goddess's warning. Christoph was right about that. They'll see an Omega Luna as weakness, as an opening to attack. We'll face wars, Seraphine. Real wars, not just political maneuvering. Let them come, I said fiercely. Let them all come. We have the moon goddess on our side. We have each other. We have a pack that's learning that strength comes in unexpected forms. And we have love, real, true, divine love that can survive dungeons and rejection and coup attempts. What can possibly defeat that? He kissed me then, deep and claiming and full of promise, while the pack howled their approval and the full moon shone down on the beginning of a new era for Shadowcrest. So yes, Bastien locked me in his dungeon. He rejected me, denied me, tried to destroy what the moon goddess created between us. But the moon goddess made him kneel, made him see, made him understand that true power isn't about dominance or hierarchy or maintaining traditions that no longer serve. True power is recognizing your equal when she stands before you, even if she comes in a form you never expected. True power is choosing love over fear, growth over stagnation, divine will over political convenience. True power is an alpha and a luna, bound together by something stronger than duty or tradition or pack politics. True power is us, and Shadowcrest pack, along with every other pack that thinks they can challenge us, is about to learn exactly what that means. The dungeon was supposed to be my ending, my tomb, the place where unwanted omegas disappeared and were forgotten. Instead, it became my beginning, the place where everything changed, where I stopped waiting for permission to be worthy and started claiming the power that was always mine. Bastien learned his lesson in that cell, locked away with the mate he'd rejected, facing execution for finally choosing love. He learned that strength without compassion is tyranny, that leadership without partnership is loneliness, that an alpha who rules alone is just a king waiting to fall. And I learned mine too. Learned that I didn't need anyone's permission to be powerful, didn't need validation from wolves who couldn't see past their own prejudices. I just needed to accept what the moon goddess had been trying to tell me all along, that I was exactly enough, exactly right, exactly what my mate and my pack needed. The dungeon was supposed to break me. Instead, it forged me into something unbreakable. So to every Omega out there who's been told they're worthless, who's been rejected by the ones who should cherish them, who's been locked away and forgotten and treated like they don't matter, I see you. It was you. And I'm telling you now what the moon goddess told me. Stop waiting for them to see your worth. Stop asking for permission to be powerful. Stop accepting that their limitations define your potential. You are exactly who you're meant to be. And sometimes, the ones who reject you need to be brought to their knees before they can finally see what was standing in front of them all along. Bastien kneels before me now. Not in submission but in partnership. Not because I forced him but because he finally understood what it means to share power instead of hoarding it. And every night when we lie together in the Luna's chambers, in the rooms that were once meant for Marguerite, now claimed by the Omega who was supposed to rot in the dungeon, he whispers the same thing. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for being strong enough to save me from myself. Thank you for showing me what true leadership looks like. I usually kiss him instead of responding with words, because what we have transcends language, transcends explanation. It's divine and it's messy and it's absolutely perfect. The moon goddess knew what she was doing when she bound me to Bastien Devereux. She knew he needed someone who wouldn't break under pressure, who would fight for him even when he fought against her, who would show him that vulnerability isn't weakness and partnership isn't surrender. And she knew I needed someone worth fighting for, someone whose strength matched mine in different ways, someone who would eventually, finally, see me as I truly am. We're not perfect. We still fight, still disagree, still struggle with the weight of leading a pack through revolutionary change. But we do it together, Alpha and Luna, mates chosen by the moon goddess herself, unbreakable because we refuse to be broken. So yes, he locked me in his dungeon. But the moon goddess made him kneel. And now we rise together, leading Shadowcrest into a future where Omega, Beta, and Alpha are just words, where true worth is measured in courage and compassion and the willingness to change, where love, real, messy, divine love, is the strongest force in existence. That's my story. That's how I went from forgotten Omega to divine Luna, From dungeon prisoner to pack leader, from rejected mate to the other half of the most powerful bonded pair Shadowcrest has ever known. And it's only just beginning. So tell me, what city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments so I can send you that hug I promised, because if this story moved you even a fraction as much as living it moved me, you definitely need one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? More stories are coming, more truths about power and love and divine intervention are waiting to be told, and you don't want to miss what happens when other packs challenge us, when Kristoff returns with rogue armies, when the moon goddess calls on me for the next impossible task. Subscribe now. Join the Shadowcrest pack. And let me show you what real power looks like when it comes wrapped in Omega form but burns with Luna fire. The dungeon was supposed to be my end. Instead, it was the moon goddess making space for my beginning. And beginnings, as it turns out, are far more powerful than endings could ever be.